technique offered the Egyptians an advantage over other cultures.
At the time that the Khufu ship was built, most other places that we know about were only making dugout canoes out of logs.
Sewn plank technology meant the Egyptians could build much larger vessels than other rival cultures. They could carry greater loads, travel greater distances. They could trade throughout the known world.
The Egyptians didn't just paddle back and forth on the Nile. They were also fully capable of sailing out into the Mediterranean, places they wanted to go.
This was the basis of tremendous economic success. It laid the foundation for 3,000 years of civilization. It helped create one of the most successful superpowers that the world has ever seen. The Khufu boat is the first of Egypt's 10 greatest discoveries, because boats sparked the birth of an empire. Wealth brought by supersized boats paid for supersized construction. Egypt built temples and monuments on a scale not matched in antiquity. But these temples and monuments could never have been built if the ancient Egyptians had not mastered the skills needed to quarry stone in vast quantities. Without stone, there would have been no statues or monuments. Much of what we know of the Egyptians, we know because of the records they left in stone. Next, a team of scientists attempt to unlock the secrets of ancient Egypt's master masons. In a brand new experiment, they will try to harness the power that built a nation and left an extraordinary legacy. Egyptology's greatest discoveries give us a glimpse of an alien civilization, one that endured for 3,000 years. Its legacy is a series of constructions so large, so perfect, that they inspire awe even today. Scientists are trying to puzzle out how, when all that was available was manpower, the Egyptians managed to quarry vast blocks of stone. Blocks such as the unfinished obelisk.
They left it in situ as an evidence to teach us how the Egyptians cut the obelisk.
The unfinished obelisk weighs over 1,000 tons, more than 500 SUVs. It lies in the ancient quarry of Aswan in Upper Egypt. The obelisk was never removed from its quarry. Archaeologists have tried to understand why, after so much work, it was abandoned. If finished, it would have towered 10 stories above the ground. Decorated with images and hieroglyphs, it would have stood as a vital component in a temple complex.
The obelisk was the symbol of connection between the king and the sun god.
Obelisks are pieces of precision spiritual technology.
For the Egyptians, an obelisk was a symbol of the sun. It was the ray of the sun, so it was sort of a power conductor.
Working like a spiritual lightning conductor, obelisks could collect and channel energy from the heavens.
You had to have it in one solid piece of rock. If you had it broken, it would mean that the sunbeam was being broken, and thus you would shatter the power of the god.
So when the engineers discovered a crack in the obelisk at Aswan, they abandoned it. A piece of bad luck for the ancient Egyptians, which is a piece of good luck for science.
One of the things in archaeology that is almost as important as successes are the failures.
Evidence on and around the obelisk is revealing how the ancient quarrymen excavated the massive stones. Like a 1,000-ton time machine, it offers a snapshot of 3,000-year-old work in progress. Using the evidence from the unfinished obelisk in a brand new experiment, scientists hope to demonstrate how this was possible.
We began to discover amazing things that did enrich our knowledge about obelisks for the first time.
Adil Kalani has spent a career investigating ancient quarrying techniques.
This is a good example for natural cracks in granite layers, which is really very important to looking for before to start working.
Granite has naturally occurring fault lines where the rock is already weak. By identifying and targeting these fault lines, the ancient engineers could begin the process of splitting the stone from the bedrock.
It would be the ease of chiseling rock, because you'd have to cut the face, you'd have to kind of break pieces out of it, but there'd always be this plane of weakness that would help separate the rock in an expeditious manner.
In the second phase, laborers bashed handheld stone pounders into the fracture line to wear the rock down. These early sledgehammers were made of dolerite, a stone much harder than granite. But the technique took time, and time was a luxury that the quarrymen did not have.
Pharaohs always wanted their monuments done in a hurry. Many pharaohs were worried that they simply wouldn't be around long enough.
The average reign of a pharaoh was less than a decade, and no pharaoh would trust his legacy to his successor.
You had all of eternity for your monuments to last, but you had a very short lifespan in which to get them built.
From the sheer number of granite obelisks and statues across Egypt, it's clear that the ancient quarrymen found a solution. Beneath the quarry, the archaeologists found the clues which tell us what the solution was.
What we have here, actually, it's all the story. It's like an open book. It tells us everything about what the Egyptian made.
Within the strata are charred mud bricks, burnt wood chips, and heat-fractured shards of stone. From this, Adil believes he's worked out how Egypt's engineers accelerated the quarrying process.
The Egyptian used fire to help them for splitting the stone.
Heat from a fire would cause the rock to expand, and cooling would cause the rock to contract. This process weakens and can even split the rock. In theory, if the Egyptians could control this, they could split large sections of the granite. But Adil has not tested the theory till now.
I'm excited to see the result, because it's a new discovery.
Exactly as the ancient engineers did, Adil selects a fault line in the rock. Mud bricks found at the unfinished obelisk site suggest that the ancient engineers built a wall to contain and control the fire. The fire raises the temperature of the rock to 800 degrees. This expands and stresses the rock. After 60 minutes of intense heat, it is safe for Adil to approach. Water causes the temperature to drop by 85% in seconds. The rock rapidly contracts.
Ooh. No, it's very hot, very, very hot.
But what damage has the heat done? Adil can now experiment whether the fire-weakened stone is easier to split than a second untreated fracture. After half an hour, he calls stop. Without fire, the workmen on the control test have made little impact on the fracture line. But at the burnt fracture, the crack is crumbling.
You can see how the fire setting affected with the granite layers. It's working very, very fast, more than what we have expected before. That explains how the ancient Egyptian made a lot of obelisks in very, very short times.
It's therefore likely that the way to quarry such large amounts of rock in such a short amount of time would be with the aid of fire.
One of the main mysteries of the ancient Egyptian techniques solved by this operation today.
The unfinished obelisk offered the clues. Then experimental archaeology showed that the theory could work. It explains how the Egyptians could quarry stone on a scale that was almost superhuman.
We discovered exactly how they did cut